Imagine the digital world, a place of connection, twisted into a weapon against your loved ones. What if the very tools meant to inform were used to deceive and destroy? This is the story of a data analyst who, after witnessing an injustice, masterminded a quiet, digital revolution to expose a ruthless tech giant. The digital landscape, vast and ever-present, had always been a playground for Amelia. A data analyst by profession, she possessed an almost intuitive understanding of algorithms, social media trends, and the unseen currents that shaped online perception. Her life, meticulously curated on various platforms, mirrored the sleek, minimalist aesthetic of her Portland loft. Yet, beneath the veneer of perfectly filtered sunsets and artisanal coffee, lay a raw, simmering wound. The public humiliation and subsequent career collapse of her younger brother, Ethan. Ethan, a budding tech entrepreneur, had poured his life savings and innovative ideas into a nascent startup, only to see it systematically dismantled by a rival company, Nexus Tech, helmed by a charismatic but utterly ruthless CEO named Victor Sterling. The official narrative painted Ethan as incompetent, a reckless dreamer whose venture was doomed from the start. But Amelia, privy to the quiet desperation in Ethan's late-night calls and the subtle shifts in the market, knew the truth was far uglier. A meticulously orchestrated smear campaign, amplified by dark social media tactics, designed to crush competition and acquire valuable intellectual property at a discount. Victor Sterling, a titan whose public persona was meticulously crafted by a legion of PR experts, embodied the very essence of Silicon Valley ambition, a veneer of innovation masking a predatory hunger. His company, Nexus Tech, boasted about its community-driven values while quietly acquiring and dismantling smaller competitors, often leaving a trail of ruined lives. Amelia had watched, powerless and heartbroken, as Ethan's vibrant energy drained away, replaced by a hollow-eyed resignation. His once bright eyes now held a distant, broken look. He withdrew from the world, lost his apartment, and returned to their childhood home, a shadow of his former self. The legal avenues, already heavily biased towards well-funded corporations, proved to be dead ends. Nexus Tech's legal team was formidable, their tactics opaque. The emotional toll on their family was immense. Their parents, bewildered by the complex world of tech and online warfare, felt helpless. Amelia, however, felt a different kind of burden. It wasn't just grief for Ethan's lost dreams, but a cold, calculated resolve. She understood the power of the invisible hand that shaped digital narratives, and she knew exactly how to wield it. Her revenge wouldn't be loud or violent. It would be a quiet, algorithmic unraveling, a digital echo that would expose Victor Sterling for the predator he truly was, within the very echo chamber he controlled. Amelia began her meticulous work with the quiet intensity of a digital architect. She knew that directly attacking Victor or Nexus Tech would be futile. Their public relations machine would simply bury her under a wave of counter-narratives and legal threats. Her strategy had to be indirect, subtle, and self-propagating, leveraging the very mechanisms Victor used for his own gain. Her first step involved diving deep into the public records and obscure corners of the internet, searching for patterns, forgotten anecdotes, and disgruntled former employees of Nexus Tech. She didn't seek out whistleblowers immediately, but rather pieced together fragmented public data, old forum posts, archived news articles about smaller acquisitions, and even long-forgotten tweets from individuals who had praised, then suddenly condemned, Victor Sterling's business practices. She noticed a recurring theme, a pattern of smaller startups experiencing sudden, inexplicable negative press or online attacks right before being acquired by Nexus Tech at bargain prices. Her next phase involved creating several meticulously crafted, seemingly innocuous, anonymous online personas. These weren't overt troll accounts, but rather digital specters designed to blend seamlessly into various niche online communities. A concerned investor on a financial forum, a disillusioned former employee on an industry subreddit, and a curious tech enthusiast on a popular social media platform. Each persona had a unique, consistent voice and a carefully constructed backstory, making them appear authentic to casual observers. She began to subtly, almost imperceptibly, drop breadcrumbs of information. These weren't direct accusations, but rather carefully phrased questions, observations, and links to obscure, publicly available documents that, when connected, painted a troubling picture. For instance, her concerned investor persona might ask a hypothetical question about the ethics of acquiring distressed assets, subtly linking to an old, overlooked article about a struggling startup that mysteriously faced a PR crisis before its acquisition. The goal was to trigger curiosity, to prompt independent investigation within the very communities that trusted their own collective intelligence. She wasn't telling anyone what to think. She was guiding them to discover the patterns themselves, allowing the truth to emerge organically from the digital soil. The beauty of this approach lay in its deniability. No single post was incriminating, yet together, they formed an undeniable, chilling narrative. Amelia then moved to the critical phase, algorithmic amplification. She understood that raw information, no matter how compelling, often drowned in the vast ocean of online content. It needed to be seen by the right eyes, at the right time. She began to observe Victor Sterling's public engagements and social media activity with forensic precision. When he announced a new philanthropic initiative or posted about Nexus Tech's ethical innovation, her anonymous personas would subtly engage, not with direct criticism, but with questions that gently nudged the narrative. For example, a persona might comment, "Impressive initiative, Mr. Sterling. It reminds me of the bold promises made during the Ethan's company's name acquisition. What steps has Nexus Tech taken to ensure such transitions are truly equitable for all parties involved?" This wasn't an attack, but a question designed to subtly reintroduce old, inconvenient truths into the current conversation, bypassing Nexus Tech's PR filters. She also meticulously studied the algorithms of various platforms. She understood how engagement, keywords, and timely interactions could elevate content. She coordinated her personas to like, share, and reply to each other's subtle observations, creating a small but growing web of interaction that signaled to the algorithms that this was a discussion gaining traction. She targeted specific influential accounts within the tech community, independent journalists, ethics watchdogs, and even prominent venture capitalists who often voiced concerns about predatory practices. She would craft carefully worded, seemingly innocuous replies to their posts, or tag them in discussions, effectively drawing their attention to the subtly unfolding narrative without directly petitioning them. The objective was to make the scattered pieces of information discoverable, creating a pathway for larger, more influential voices to find and amplify the unsettling pattern she had meticulously woven. She knew that once these prominent figures, with their vast reach and credibility, began to notice and question, the echo chamber Victor had so carefully constructed would begin to crack under its own weight, turning his own tools of manipulation against him. The digital seeds were planted, watered, and now they were beginning to sprout, ready to entangle the very hands that sowed deceit. The initial cracks in Victor Sterling's carefully constructed digital facade began subtly, almost imperceptibly, like hairline fractures spreading across a polished surface. A highly respected independent tech journalist, known for his deep investigative dives, stumbled upon one of Amelia's carefully crafted threads on a niche forum. The questions posed by her anonymous persona, coupled with the obscure links to historical data, piqued his professional curiosity. He saw the pattern she had meticulously highlighted, the recurring cycle of small startups facing sudden crises before their swift, undervalued acquisition by Nexus Tech. His initial article was cautious, posing questions rather than making accusations, but it highlighted the coincidental timing of these events. This article, amplified by Amelia's hidden network of personas, swiftly gained traction, moving beyond the niche forums and into mainstream tech news feeds. Then, a prominent venture capitalist, a vocal advocate for ethical innovation, retweeted the journalist's article, adding a pointed comment. "Is this the new normal? When does ambition cross into predatory behavior?" This was the tipping point. The combined weight of a credible journalist and an influential VC acted as an accelerant, drawing the attention of countless others. The echo chamber that Victor had cultivated, once a loyal amplifier of his self-serving narrative, began to turn against him. People started connecting the dots themselves, recalling past acquisitions, sharing personal anecdotes of negative experiences with Nexus Tech and cross-referencing information that Amelia had subtly made accessible. Social media feeds that once celebrated Victor's genius now filled with threads of skepticism and growing outrage. Hashtags questioning Nexus Tech's ethical practices began to trend. The carefully curated image of Victor Sterling as a visionary leader began to unravel, replaced by a growing perception of him as a ruthless opportunist, a digital predator. Nexus Tech's PR team, accustomed to managing minor crises, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer volume and organic nature of the backlash. They couldn't simply dismiss it as a single disgruntled voice. This was a decentralized, self-organizing chorus of doubt and accusation, born from seeds that Amelia had expertly planted. The once impenetrable digital fortress began to crumble from within, its own amplified voices now echoing a chorus of condemnation. The sustained digital pressure soon cascaded into tangible, real-world consequences for Victor Sterling and Nexus Tech. The mounting public scrutiny, fueled by the relentless flow of revelations, prompted government regulators to launch preliminary inquiries into Nexus Tech's acquisition practices. Key investors, unnerved by the plummeting public image and the sudden volatility of their stock, began to quietly divest, causing a significant dip in the company's valuation. High-profile speaking engagements for Victor, once a cornerstone of his carefully cultivated public persona, were abruptly canceled. Major media outlets, initially hesitant, now ran in-depth exposés, interviewing former employees who, finally feeling safe enough to speak out, corroborated the patterns of intimidation and unethical dealings that Amelia had hinted at. The narrative shifted from coincidence to pattern, and finally, to predatory practice. The internal pressure within Nexus Tech became unbearable. Key executives, fearful of legal repercussions and reputational damage, began to distance themselves from Victor. The board of directors, facing dwindling investor confidence and the very real threat of legal action and financial ruin, was forced to act decisively. In a terse press release, strikingly similar to those Nexus Tech had issued about its acquired startups, Victor Sterling's resignation was announced, citing personal reasons and a desire to explore new opportunities. It was a cold, corporate euphemism for being forced out. His carefully constructed empire, built on manipulation and exploitation, began its slow, painful deconstruction. Amelia watched the news unfold from her quiet loft, a profound sense of closure settling over her. She saw photos of Victor Sterling, once radiating confidence, now looking visibly aged and defeated. Ethan, slowly recovering from his ordeal, had begun to regain some of his old spark, tentatively exploring new ideas, unburdened by the shadow of Nexus Tech. Amelia had achieved her retribution not through violence or direct confrontation, but by strategically weaponizing the very digital systems Victor had used to inflict harm. She had orchestrated an algorithmic justice, using information as her primary tool, exposing the hidden mechanisms of manipulation for all to see. The echo chamber, once a tool of deceit, had finally echoed the truth, a quiet, powerful testament to the fact that even in the most complex digital landscapes, true accountability can emerge, meticulously woven from the threads of data and undeniable patterns.